Everything we know, from people and ants to stars and galaxies to quarks and atoms, the entire universe, might just be a simulation running inside a supercomputer inside an even bigger universe. Ancient philosophers said that the universe is a dream that we're waiting to wake up from. In this dream world of the imagination, anything is possible. All cultural items, from the dreams of our rodent-like ancestors, to books, to television shows, are merely permutations of the reality we think we live in. Today's age of computers and video games places simulations at the center of our cultural consciousness. A select group of us perform simulations for fun and profit, and we call them games, role-playing and otherwise. We live to run simulations. Join us on the Simulationist Podcast as we explore our culture of simulations.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back once again to the Simulationist Podcast. This is the 151st iteration of the show, recorded on the 26th of July, 2015. My name is Josh Trelevan. With me, as always, on the other microphone,
co-host extraordinaire, Ryan Kirkby.
Ryan is here. How are you doing this week, Ryan?
Well, I'm doing pretty good. I mean, we had a great shower here in Victoria, and it's cleaned the cars, it's cleaned the trees, it's cleaned the roads, it's cleaned the air, and it's like, I got off work today, I just step outside, it's like, oh, yeah, the air's just got that nice, clean, crisp, because it was a real downpour we got today. Like, It's been so dry for so long, and then when we want rain, we get it down like shower head force.
Yeah,
technically more than I think showerhead force, because I got a low flow showerhead in my place here, and it's like, oh man, I should have tossed some soap on the top of my car and got it really clean today.
Yeah, it came down pretty heavy today, including thunder and lightning.
Yeah, which was kind of nice. I wish I had been around my daughter at the time, because this would be the first time she'd have been around thunder and lightning herself. So I would have liked to have seen how she dealt with it. Apparently, she held it pretty brave. Although she was at her uncle's and the power went out, so they wound up having extra fun by just playing with flashlights in the dark.
Yeah.
What else are you gonna do, right?
Yeah.
Can't go on the internet. Power's out. But I mean, there's a harsh downpour that comes in here after so long of a dry spell, and everything just seems so much cleaner now. Like the more sun glinting off of everything once the sun finally did come out.
Yep.
And so it was really good for my attitude just to see everything looking clean and shiny and smells like an Irish Spring commercial's been going on outside. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Sure.
So I'm doing pretty darn groovy.
That's good.
How about you?
Oh yeah, doing good. I say the same thing with the rain and all that.
But are you as excited as I am, or you just kind of chill about? Oh hey, it's precipitation.
I really enjoyed getting a bit of rain. It's nice. It's always nice to get a change in the weather. So.
I would have preferred a more longer, prolonged drizzle, but we need the rain so bad we can't say no to it in any form right now.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I have no idea if it put out forest fires. I'd imagine a downpour like that would. It
would help prevent new forest fires from occurring, and right now that's as good as you can hope for.
Yeah.
That said, I kind of hope Vancouver got the rain as well as we did, because right now they're at stage 5 drought conditions, which means if you get caught washing your car, you could get ticketed. You could get heavily fined if you're caught watering your lawn.
Yeah.
It's like that old line, conserve water, shower with a friend, sort of thing. So that's about the drought stage conditions they're sitting at right now. So, as much as I know we enjoyed the rain here, they could definitely use it at least as much over there. Of course, that said, you look at most of North America right now, we could use that rain a little bit everywhere. Except in, Florida, where apparently they get enough precipitation normally. Their Everglades are doing pretty nice.
Yeah.
So hooray!
Right.
So what have you been up to this week, Josh?
Oh yeah, let's get into that. Okay, two major things. Or well, not major as in I play a video game, but
Major fiction related.
Two fiction related things that I can think of off the top of my head. I started in Minecraft. I started a brand new base.
Ooh.
Like in a different part of my world.
So what sort of biome did you go with? What sort of location?
I started a snowy biome base.
Ah, yes. It's been a while since I've been in a snowy biome. I kind of miss it.
Yeah, so I built like a nice log cabin with a big fireplace in it.
Ooh, real fireplace, or you just
like the netherrack? So yeah,
permanent style. Dig it.
Yeah. Like a little enclosure for snowmen, so that I can farm snow.
Because it's in very scarce demand, over in the Arctic cold biome. So you need to protect your own snow, get your own snow farm.
It's just that whenever I go to get snow, like I keep on getting farther and farther away from my, base.
It doesn't snow
area.
enough, is what you're saying.
Yeah, and then you have to wait, when's it going to snow again? It does eventually always snow again, but yeah, you got to wait for that.
Yeah, I remember trying to build one giant citadel sort of thing in the snow area, and it's just like, it's on top of all this stuff. This was supposed to be an indoor location. I just hadn't put the roof on yet, and now look at it. There's snow everywhere.
Yeah.
It's a shack is what I'm building. A giant 17-level shack. Ugh.
Yeah. Yeah, so, I've been what else did I build in here? Like an ice harvesting pond.
Ooh, very nice, very nice.
Yeah, because I need that ice.
Well, you going to do something like that castle from Frozen?
Ooh, that'd be a good idea. Yeah. I think that would take a lot of work, but yeah.
All the good things in life and video games do. Make blocks of snow and ice to pattern things up and really have some fun.
Yeah.
I'd try something like that myself, but I'm based in a desert right now, and while I do have an option for getting ice, it's not going to last outside of the block form. So enjoy what you can. Make use of the resources that you're being given, Josh.
Yeah, and
Seize the day.
I had forgotten about this, but my weasels that I made.
Yes.
I actually added some thing in the code for they spawn in ice biomes.
Oh.
Just because I don't know, I was like, what biome should they spawn in? I guess for the snow.
There's not a lot of stuff happening in the ice and snow, so put a little something there.
Yeah, and you see like in the nature videos, you see like weasels hunting in the snow and stuff.
Yeah, you get some very nice smaller animals hunting in snow. Snow is very intriguing for the snow the lower animals on the food chain because it allows them some extra benefits and protection.
Yeah, so I have all of my weasels hanging around and walking around my pumpkin patch. Yeah.
Well, you don't have any scarecrows to scare them away?
I don't. Maybe that's something.
I still say 2 blocks of hay with a nice pumpkin on top should be able to make a scarecrow.
Yeah.
And you know how creepers get scared away by cats, right?
Yeah.
Just make the scarecrow scare all mobs away. That's what they do. That's what all the thing does. Is just moves in a little random direction unless you bolt it into a little stuff. It basically moves like a chicken, scares everything. Like a creeper gets scared by a cat.
Well, have you ever done much with snowmen in Minecraft?
A little bit I tried. It's not bad.
They throw snowballs at
Yeah. The snowballs deal very little damage.
I don't think they do any, I think it just knocks them away.
Oh, wait, I think they might do some damage to blazes if under weird, crazy circumstances where you can get the two of them together.
Yeah.
It usually involves mods.
Well, I think the blazes can go through portals. So you could design like a blaze farm near a spawner in the nether and then have a portal really nearby.
But for most purposes, it's just an esoteric question. Does a blaze get hurt by snowballs? And apparently the answer is, okay, kinda, yeah.
Yeah,
but even then it's very little damage. It's not an effective combat technique. Yeah,
but now I have a new thing I want to try.
Well, that's half the fun of Minecraft, isn't it?
Yeah, indeed. So I started that because I needed a source of snow that was relatively near to my other base, which I was like, I'm starting to farm chickens and stuff and getting lots of meat, and then I was like, I don't know why this is, but I like to put snow and ice in the chest with the meat.
So it's just like a freezer chest.
That's just, I don't know, it just feels like I have to do that.
I have often contemplated moving my few blocks of ice that I do have in the desert to the to where I keep my food just to keep it cooler.
Yeah.
So you're not alone in this thought process.
Okay, yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay, also, what else have I been doing in... I played D&D. Roll for Initiative happened
That's right.
yesterday.
I was thinking about that. I had the books out, and I was just reading through the books. It's like, it'd be kind of nice to play. What would I play if I had my options? So, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't there in person, but I assure you, my spirit was there.
There in spirit, all right. What I ended up playing was one of the DMs there ran a Dungeon World campaign.
Yes, I hadn't ever had a chance to run in Dungeon World, but I did enjoy the concept, and I have utilized the concept as an idea for multi-planar, incursions and fun things like that.
Yeah, it's like a D&D improv type of, like it's much more improvised, less heavy on the rules, more about just storytelling. And the DM asks the players for certain details about the world too, like helps the players build the world. Which we had some fun. We improvised and created basically our own little story there in just an evening, and it was great. Yeah,
that's a thing I do like. It's like, okay, let's all sit down. Like, what do you guys bring to the table, and then mesh it all together as a single story.
Yep.
I've had some very nice, mini campaign worlds where it's like, okay, no one's playing an elf, so elves are the enemy. There you go.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's all it takes sometimes, is just to see who's bringing what and then work with that. It's not bad. I mean, some people like a lot of background, a lot of build-up. Sometimes winging it's as good as anything else.
Yeah. And so I was the wizard, a wizard. Yeah, the wizard of the party. Wizard. And I had a magic.
Did anyone see you? Did anyone go off to see you?
Off to see the wizard? We went off to see a chimera.
Okay, that's not bad. It wasn't in like a zoo or anything. It wasn't just so lousy, like, okay, now you gotta like make search checks to figure out where the chimera is at the zoo.
You have to read the guidepost sign.
But it's all in a foreign script. Who's got these decipher stuff, Yeah, a dragon running a zoo. Ooh, that's an interesting concept. You work for the dragon. You got to capture these creatures and bring it back to the zoo. It has this urge to prove that it is the most dangerous and most capable of creatures on all the planet. So you got to capture all the other creatures and put them in the zoos.
Yeah. Although, actually, this wasn't a chimera, because I don't know if this is something our GM came up with on the fly or if he had it planned. I guess it's better not to know. Yeah. But he invented a chimera hydra, which was basically a chimera with double as many heads. And probably some other hydra stats, too. I'm not sure how...
Regeneration, likely.
Yeah, that kind of stuff.
I do like what they did with chimeras as a concept in Magic the Gathering, where it's basically any three creatures put together in one.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Which really works well with the old 3.5, template for working stuff like that with tauric creatures and fun things like hydras. I'd like to see more of that in 5th edition workup. It's just like, here, with a little bit of work, you can make whatever crazy fun thing you want, and here's the system for doing it. That's how I like to roll, but don't get me wrong, I do appreciate, like, oh, hey, here's the stats all ready for you. Just pick it up and run with it.
Yep, that's good, too. Yeah. What else? Yeah, I played a wizard. That was about... we fought a chimera. And one of the fun things that we did, I don't know if this is baked into Dungeon World or just the way he was running it, but he would ask for little what town are you from, or name a region and what lives there, and so you just say, oh, gnolls live there. He's like, okay, gnolls live there. So and then he wrote down
kobolds made out of pure gold live there.
Well, we were thinking of how could we do that. Then he would write down the name of the town and what was nearby and what the features were on a little Post-it note. Oh. And then he just stuck them in the middle of the table, and as we added things, he was like, okay, this is our map. This is our world map now.
I do like that style. It never works too well for me, because, when it comes to maps, I'm a very visual sort of player. Mm-hmm. So just a little bit of notes on this and that, not bad. I tend to prefer, almost like Settlers of Catan style tiles in that sort of case.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, if you're okay with the props, I think that's an excellent way to effectively build a map for a one-off sort of little adventure.
And then it was all over at the end of the night, and like nothing
stayed. The world broke apart.
Yeah, the world is gone. But we had fun for that. You know, we had a complete adventure, and we, you know...
In a world of your own making.
Yeah.
I dig that. I really like that, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know, like... I guess, I mean, the system, I think I prefer D&D as far as systems go, because I like just knowing what I can and can't do. Because there were times when it's like the DM is like, okay, now what do you want to do? And I was like, well, I have magic missiles, so I cast magic missiles. I mean, and that's what you do in D&D.
Yeah.
You just cast...
The tactical stuff.
You have, and you cast it. And the GM is like, are you sure there's not something like extra you want to do? And I was like... Well, yes, I mean, I would like to blind the bad guy, but that's a, 4th level spell for blindness, or, whatever level spell. I didn't pick that spell. I mean, I would love...
It could be an infinite level spell. If you don't have it, it doesn't matter, right?
Yeah, I would like to cast a blindness spell on it, but, that's its own thing.
Yeah. In which case, I find, when it comes to the cinematic style, I do prefer the tri-stat system. Because it's much more loose that way. It's not like defined like, oh, you're fighting on a grid. It's like, no, you're close range, so 50 meters or less.
Well, we didn't use a grid for this one,
but D&D is much more grid-oriented and defined, whereas something like Tri-Stat, it's like, I want to try and, like fire my gun, have the bullet ricochet 4 ways and then do it. That's built into the rules. It's like, that's a very tricky shot. You suffer a -8 penalty, but it's like, fine, fire it off. Rebound and rock it around, man. You can have it happen.
Yeah. Well, the other, I don't always like that, because most of the time when you say, I'm going to try this awesome thing, like you really work through it in your mind and like going to try and ricochet it off the thing and you really explain it really well, and then you roll the dice.
But here's the thing: is if you explain it really well, I'm more likely to give you lesser penalty for the crazy maneuvers. If you say I'm just going to shoot him by having it bounce around off like 7 different surfaces.
But you could still roll that like if it's still less than 50% chance of success, you're probably still pretty likely to fail. But
at least you know what you're doing, so I'm more likely to give you that. Like let's say the fight's not going well, and it's like we got to get out of here. So it's like okay, we started a fight at, the Grand Ball, sort of thing, because, I don't know, we're adventurers. That's what happens, right? So we got to try and, get out of here, sort of thing, so we just try and run. Okay, make your shot. If somebody says, I got to jump and I got to swing from the chandelier and leap over top of the guards, I'm more willing to give bonuses or lesser penalties for trying this stuff, because you're describing things. You're making the scenery, something you can interact with rather than just a backdrop, like a high school play, right?
Yeah.
And so, if you're willing to work with the scenery and act with it, I'm more liable to say, oh, you're into the game. I will grant you bonuses or lesser penalty.
Okay, yeah, all right, that sounds good. Another thing that happened, which I don't know if it was just the way he was running it or if Dungeon World is designed this way, but whenever you get a middling success, it's 2d6, right?
Yeah.
Is your rolling mechanism, and you add your skill to it, which you have skills of level 1 to 3 or something like that. So you're adding 1 to 3 to your 2d6. So you have a mid range of 8 to 10-ish. So if you get in that mid range, then you succeed, but there's a complication. If you
which is not a bad concept, you do something like you do it, but you wind up losing. Oh no, your Indiana Jones hat. So all of a sudden it's like, oh no, to properly do this, I got to reach back and grab my hat, and that sets up for a cinematic scene like Indiana Jones, where he almost loses his hat, reaches his hand while the wall's coming down. Gets it out just in the nick of time.
Yeah. So
it can set itself up well. It does seem exasperating to say you succeeded, but I'm still penalizing you. You didn't do enough.
Well, yeah, that's the thing one thing that kept on that happened a few times was he would throw on the rules say to throw on a complication,
which I think is good. I mean, it adds uniqueness and style.
He would throw it on, and then he would say, okay, now what are you going to do about that? And then we would, whether it was myself or one of the other players, we would say, oh, okay, well, I react this way, or I duck, or I jump out of the way. And then he would kind of take it back a little bit, which is fine. Like as a DM, if the players do a good job of describing, like what, no, I do that. So it kind of had no mechanical effect in some cases. Which I think that works.
But it helps describe what's going on in the scene to everyone's head a little bit better.
Yeah, so it makes it more, you can visualize it better.
So what if it worked the other way? What if we had a rule in D&D where if you were to make a skill check in the heat of combat or whatever, and you were to fail by 1 or 2 points, you could instead turn that to a success, but there's a complication. Like, yes, you managed to actually dodge by the, we'll say trolls. Unfortunately, one of them, manages to use its claws to snap your backpack. Your backpack is now in the midst of a bunch of, trolls, although you have escaped and tumbled by. Or, no, you don't succeed at all, and you wind up getting knocked flat on your arse in the middle of the trolls.
Yeah, I think as a DM, I might throw that in there, just depending on the situation. It's...
Only at the player's option, though. It's like, okay, you failed it, but only by 2 points.
You can succeed if you
I'll say you succeed, but there's going to be a complication or a downside to it. Are you willing to accept it, or do you want to just accept your clean failure?
Yeah, I could see myself doing that as a dungeon master. Just having a light touch on that, not all the time, but just every once in a while throw it in.
Well, I'm thinking right now with the sorcerer class in D&D. Like whenever you cast a spell, there's a chance of having a wild surge if you do the wild mage archetype. And it's you don't have that happen every time you cast a spell, but it's something like a small percentage chance of that.
Yeah, I just want to say, like as a player, I may be a little bit wary of that kind of thing because I sort of expect the rules to work a certain way, and like as I'm rolling, I'm doing this because I believe that the outcome is going to be this or that, and so I don't necessarily want the DM being like, oh well, you just lost your sword, or you just lost this or that, sort of
nothing major. Well, what if it was like a minor item, like an expendable item that you'd lose? Like you'll land heavy on your pack and you lose either like a day's worth of rations, or I'll roll it on 1 to 5. You lose something like mundane, like rations, or you break a mundane item in your backpack. Or if it's a 6 on my 1d6, you break and lose a magical potion you've got in there.
Yeah.
Would you accept your loss, turn to a victory if it was something like that? Like you wind up losing a little bit of this. Like it doesn't quite work, but you managed to pull it off, even though you've now got like squished iron rations like oozing out of your backpack.
Well, we had that happen one time in last night's campaign, and to me, like it felt a little bit anticlimactic to just say, because he was like, oh, okay, one of the possible side effects of you failing this roll or whatever is you lose a mundane item. And he's like, oh, okay, well, he just looks at his list of equipment. Well, I don't need this,
No, the player doesn't choose. The DM chooses
maybe that's
on
why,
that one.
Maybe that's why it didn't work so well. Like, he's just looking at his list.
Flint and steel get lost.
Used shock, so that's gone.
No, if you get indigestion, what are you going to do to solve it out in the wild?
But also,
you need your chalk.
The other thing is I think I prefer tracking things like rations and arrows and ammo and everything like that, but not every group does. So if that was your negative outcome,
if you're playing it more like a Diablo style, like it encouraged you in like I think it was 3rd edition 3.0. They had effectively like Diablo 2 rules for D&D, in which case it says don't worry about the time of day or night really, aside from like line of sight distance for encounters, and don't pay attention to rations. You're in it for the fight. You're not in it to see how much food you've got.
Yeah, so in that case, if you had a penalty like that, it'd be like, oh, okay, I guess I lose some like we're not tracking rations, so.
So it works best to, like when it relates to something important. If you're not keeping track of the little things like the rations, what if it's like you lose some of your coins? Like, you're dodging over the trolls and one of them manages to, its claw just snags along the side of your coin purse and, oh, there goes your coin purse. You wind up losing, we'll say, 3 to 6 gold pieces or whatever your largest currency is.
That's not bad, and also like just to step back to the point about rations. If I like the idea of a campaign because sometimes you do track those things, and it's like
especially if you're going like a wilderness
style
it's like
one, Dark Sun, or you're traveling across you got to track your water and just make sure that
you're low level, man. You can't just create food and water like some mid-level mage. What are you doing, you crazy man?
Although if you accidentally, like if you're playing Dark Sun and you accidentally a gallon of water leaked out because in that battle,
that is a horrible travesty.
Now we can't get across the desert. Like we got to give up this quest and go back to.
We have to kill a halfling now, so that we will not have to feed enough water to this poor little sap.
But I guess in that case, water is very valuable, and that's how it should be.
It's the equivalent of like losing gold.
Yeah. And I was also you asked about like if your coin purse gets ripped and
you lose coins because coins tend to be like, why are you adventuring? I'm doing it for the loot.
Yeah.
So coins would be a bit more of a universal thing.
Then one thing I worry about that though is, in part, it's just DM's arbitrary, just making up. Oh, just this random thing happened. You're losing money. But then wouldn't you be more likely to remember that fight later on? It's like, God, I remember. I ripped my coin purse. I made no money off that thing. We wound up like losing like 3 potions as we tried to heal up afterwards, and I completely lost this.
My coin purse,
but
man. I was like, oh.
My one problem, and this is probably a minor problem, and I don't know if I should be, but then you get your players like, the wheels are turning their head. It's like, oh, how can I, like, if that's possible to do, couldn't I like engineer a situation where I'm fighting a monster and like it happens to have like a bag of gold? I could just open its bag up and.
We'll say this, if the monster's making some sort of check against you and it fails by that much, the DM says, hey, listen, it was going to fail. Do you want to succeed, but you guys get some sort of advantage over it for the next round of combat? Or do you want to take that chance? Like that.
But then, of course...
Because let's face it, when you're doing like a game like D&D where you're rolling dice, you're effectively working with a game of chance. Mm-hmm. And so I think it might be a little bit more fun to say, do you want to take that chance? The roll says otherwise. Do you want to take the chance and have it switch over? But I get the choice?
Yeah.
Do you want to play this game of chance as opposed to roll in the bones?
Again, what happens there is that whole the imbalance between, because monsters are only there for a scene, and they're probably going to die anyway, so you're probably going to get their gold anyways. And also, the thing is, if a monster like rips open your backpack and your gear spills all over the battlefield, like, oh no, for about 5 minutes.
Now I've got to kill them all.
Until you kill all the monsters. Okay, finally I can pick up my backpack and sew it back up together.
But here's the thing is you might not have access to all your equipment then. It's like, oh no, all the potions, although they're in like leaded vials, so they're not going to crack and break, because you're a good adventurer. You take care of this stuff beforehand. No wandering around with like 10 pounds of glass for you. So it winds up being something like that, but it's like, oh no, now you can't use any of your potions until the end of battle.
Could be. Although, one of the problems with potions I've always found you always, potions take actions, especially if, unless you have like a potion belt, because, I don't know, for some reason,
professional adventurers will do that.
Potion belts. Yeah. But potion, you have to like get out your backpack and dig through it. Like, I can't remember is it in the blue bottle, the red bottle? I didn't label these properly, and
And that's why you get the leaded vials with the proper things on the side, man.
Proper runes on them. Healing. Acid. Okay.
Yes, I remember one where I gave you a vial of acid. Said, here's my healing potion, and then before I was able to say, no, dude, I'm just joking. You chugged it. DM ruled you chugged the acid, man.
Oh, yeah.
That was a fun little campaign.
Yeah, anyways.
So I like that home rule. I'm going to put a pin in that as something I might want to write up as an official thing for
keep it around.
Extra chaos in the fun and uniqueness on the fights.
Yeah. Well, one other thing I was going to say about that whole thing was sometimes it would snowball a little bit because it's like, and maybe that's good because it's like a little bit of a story, but it also like the fights kind of started a little bit dragging on a little bit because.
So you don't make it an all the time thing. You just say like maybe there's a 10% chance. Like, hey, you failed it by 1 to 2. If you want me to roll some percentile chance, we could potentially have it be that you succeed at a penalty.
Yeah, because it was it's like you tried to do something, a little complication, and then that leads to another complication, and that leads to another one, which is
a good humorous thing sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah, but So it's pluses and minuses. It's good and bad. So yeah.
Oh, okay.
But that was my thing.
And from it, I got an extra homebrew ruling sort of thing to go with. I'm liking that.
Very good. Yeah, cool.
All right.
Did you do anything cool?
Cool? No, I did a lot of fiction-based nerd stuff.
Nerdy stuff.
I came up with a conspiracy notion this week. So I'm going to wedge that in as opposed to its own little section this week. Donald Trump is running for the president of America right now, or at least for to become the Republican nominee for the running. So here's the thing: is that now let's set aside he's a massive overinflated ego, whereupon he's running because
set that aside. What are you left with?
Bad hair, But no, setting aside the concept, that he's most likely running for the nomination because he wants to be the center of attention.
Yeah. Right.
Why would he run for this sort of thing when a lot of he realizes, being the fact that he's been on TV, people are going to see him as a bit of a buffoon, and they're going to bring everything up against him that's ever been bragging up.
He can't realistically expect to win, can he?
He's actually one of the forefront potentials.
At least for the one side. Yeah.
With the amount of attention he's getting, he is considered one of the primary Republican potentials. So, okay. So as I said, let's all the real reasons why he's doing it, and there has been the joke going about online that he is in the running simply to make all the other Republican nominees appear more sane and balanced and moderate in comparison.
Okay.
So what would otherwise be was it 15 other nominees right now?
Yeah.
There's a lot of them before they start winnowing themselves out. But to get the other dozen or so nominees from looking like a bunch of right-wing whack jobs, according to whatever media sources you pay attention to, maybe not. With their radical beliefs, they seem much more moderate compared to Donald Trump's bombastic attitude and scene-stealing maneuvers. Or is he doing it to discredit the entire Republican side? And thus he's doing it to try and help the liberals. So, here's the interesting thing, is if you've ever read Steve Jackson games with their Illuminati stuff, they show various examples of ways to manipulate people. You want people to move left, you do something on the right to make them swerve off. And one of the examples they give is, let's say you want people to consider the homeless to be more like actual human beings, because they're actual human beings. Oh my goodness. And so in order to properly humanize them more, what you would do is set up a person who would demonize and inhumanize them. So you get this really loud person to say that something like, homeless people are subhuman degenerates who I hope all die off in a cold frost one day. And then this guy is such a jerk, you don't want to be siding with him at all. Like, oh my goodness, I don't want to do that. So whereas you were before just not care about the homeless situation, you're like, I got to put some distance between him and I and say no. Despite the fact that they cause issues with the polite regulation of society, I don't believe they should all die because they are human beings as well. And so by focusing the other way, you make the people swerve in the way you want. So you could see Donald Trump in that way as being such a bombastic jerk-ass Republican. More people vote Democrat just to keep away from the Republican Party and their nut job. Like, my goodness, they had Trump running as an actual contender, not some sort of joke candidate. He was an actual serious candidate. My goodness. So is he just trying to do it to make the other Republicans seem more moderate, or is he actually just trying to make more people go Democrat? Conspiracy notion for the week. Think about that and how things play out.
Which one is it? Who knows?
The answer, as I said, is probably neither. He just wants to put himself in the spotlight more. Yeah, that's his primary motivating goal now that he's... Yeah. Well, until he declares bankruptcy again, he's, rich beyond any conceivable demands. So, hooray! So, until bankruptcy number 5... his only real concern is people notice me. So that's why he's doing it. But that doesn't stop a good conspiracy notion. So, I mean, exercise your conspiracy lobe in your brain there and try and work all the angles out. Who's putting Trump up to this? Who's the puppet master pulling his strings?
I wonder, do you think, like, if he was doing it sort of for his brand and for, like, basically becoming more recognizable, more famous as a
or infamous, depends how you want to look at it.
Yeah, sure. If you say that whole thing about any publicity is good publicity.
I do believe that's very, very bad advice, but okay.
I wonder, like, is it? Well, maybe I just answered my own question. I was going to ask, is it better to have a failed presidential run, like on your resume, like, you know, looking back on this from, you know, in the 2 or 3 years in the future, if this will actually have made him more recognizable and more desirable as, like, you know, a rich guy?
Well, I could answer this by asking you, how many times have you seen Ross Perot on TV lately?
Not very many.
Yeah.
So it didn't. Yeah, I guess it didn't work out that good for him.
Which is interesting though, because you look at some of the other previous candidates on the Democratic side, and they get good jobs still. I mean, the Democrats don't seem to hate each other. It's like, Hillary Clinton, you ran against me for the liberal nomination, and while I, Barack Obama, am now in supreme command, because, you know, I'm having fun with this right now, I still give you a good, important role to play because I believe you are a worthy candidate who still has a lot of potential political hopeful stuff.
Yeah.
Whereas over on the Republican Party, it's Mitt Romney, you have failed us. We damn you to obscurity.
Well, I think what happens I mean, I don't know too much about this, but I think they get jobs with Fox News,
or Palin,
or with lobbyists and with, you know, the oil industry and stuff like that. I think that's where they end up going.
A little bit more out of the eye, though. But with the Democrats...
Yeah, they don't get like those public jobs, yeah.
I mean, heck, you look at some of the other previous Democratic would-have runs, you know, and wound up losing to, I think it was Bush. And, some of them go off into the private sector. But one of them right now is working, like, for peace talks in, like, the Middle East and all that. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, they still... they seem to be much more... of a collegiate as opposed to, I will fight you tooth and nail. The Republican Party is cutthroat in that regard, and on the one hand I respect it, because, you know, it's like, you must seize power and control. Yeah. On the other hand, it's nice to say, like, no, although we have our differences, that doesn't mean I hate the person I'm running against. We merely have different views, and I believe mine are the more accurate for the situation. So it seems a little bit more academic, and I always kind of have preferences towards that.
Yeah, I get that feeling too. Like, yeah, like even with right and left politics in Canada, I get the feeling that the left wing is a bit more academic and smart and stuff. And
yeah, I can't see a lot of the other political leaders sitting down with Stephen Harper, but I could see Mulcair and Justin Trudeau sharing a table at some sort of luncheon meeting somewhere.
I mean, I can picture them all, obviously, like the human beings. I can picture them all, you know, hanging out or whatever.
I can't see the others having like a good time sitting down at the table. You know, like Stephen Harper and Mulcair sitting down at the same table. I don't see them like clinking drinks and like having a good laugh as they're chatting. I can see that happening with Mulcair and Trudeau. I can even see that happening with, Mulcair and Elizabeth May, the leader of the Green Party. I can see them chatting and having a nice, cordial, relationship as they're sitting at the table, you know, exchanging stories, mentioning this and that. I don't see it being a frosty reception. So I see, just because, you know, like they're towards the left end of the thing doesn't mean, you know, like they have to be enemies because they're different parties. Whereas Harper seems to... But honestly, Harper seems to hate everybody. I
was just thinking to myself, I wonder if that's either, I don't know if that's necessarily the right wing in him or just his personality, just that he's that kind of guy.
Yeah. Well, only time will tell. You know, apparently there's a very good chance he's not even going to run for the next election for Canadian Prime Minister. So we'll see how he does out of that office seat. Right. So long as he's out of that office seat, I'll be a little bit happier.
Wow. So,
Woo.
politics corner.
Yeah. All politics just coming from the one notion of that joke, like, from, is Trump doing it to make the others look more moderate? And all this stuff comes out just from the concept. And that's the real benefit to having these conspiracy notion thoughts.
Yeah, sure.
Is it starts you up on the topic.
At least you're thinking, yeah.
It snowballs, man.
Yeah.
The other thing is Minecraft.
You've been up to Minecraft.
I had to do some tallies. As I said, I was unhappy with the central part of my town, with its gated community style. So I took down a bit of the wall, and oh my goodness, I just took down a bit of the wall and just some of the buildings on the one eastern side of the place, and it's so much easier to go around town now. I can't wait to take down the rest of the wall, but I can't in good conscience do that without putting up an actual safety wall around the outside of my whole city, because monsters go out.
Yeah, monsters.
And so I did some numbers. Turns out my city is exactly 204 squares by 204 squares.
Oh.
Without meaning to, I made a perfect square for the size of my town.
Is there a significance to the number 204?
Not to the best of my knowledge. I will be doing some numbers, look up, see what it breaks down into. Hit up the Wikipedia and all that. But yeah, 204 squares by 204 squares. I did the numbers I had to stop what I'm doing. I paused the game and okay, let's double check those numbers.
That wasn't even on purpose.
No, it was completely by happenstance. I made a square town. And it's just like I'm not even off by a matter of one square in any direction. It's like, did I plan this? Was I doing some sort of weird tally in my head? What's going on here? I mean, there is a very good chance that it would have been at some sort of ratio because of how I set up my pathways. In that they're 5 wide on either side, and there's a 5 wide area in the center of where I have my trees growing out. Because I got tree-lined pathways to make it look nice. Use of negative space, spread things out. And I make it so that it all only branches off, in areas and makes a T-junction where the lineup of trees would match. So effectively, it works out to some sort of base distance of tree units. But I really don't know how I managed to make it exactly the same way in either direction. I was not planning on that sort of thing. But I did, so I'm starting up the numbers, and I spent a lot of manpower this last week building the wall, and I am only 3/8 of the way done, and it doesn't cover the west side of town. That's basically just chiseled out of the side of a mountain face. So it's like, I'm looking at some of the other places I've built where I had to let's clear off some land and all that, and I make it to a slope on the natural mountain of a 1-for-1, and it doesn't look right. I remember looking when I was all done at my previous city where that had happened. I'm like, it looks like I'm sitting in a bowl. Like I carved the city down rather than up. And so this time I'm doing for every 1 block up it goes 2 over. So it's like a half slant.
Oh yeah.
Half the angle. And it's looking a lot better, a lot more natural. But that's going to be just a devil to work with out on the western side where I'm carving away a mountain to make things nicely sloped. So it's like, biddy bah! What have I set myself up for? And the weird thing is that because I've taken down the wall on the town, they're vulnerable. And I have seen times where I stayed out a little extra long, and a zombie pops up, like a little baby zombie, which for some reason do not burn in the daytime, I've noticed.
Yeah, I think they fixed that in later versions.
I'm over at 1.7.10 where they haven't. And I wound up having to chase him around the outline. Like I found him at the northwest corner of the inner gateway area, and I wound up chasing him around the city as he was making a round to go in to get the villagers. Apparently they go counterclockwise around their obstacles in this case. Okay. I don't know if that's an all the time thing, but such is life, right? And that's when I realized as long as I have this open area, my villagers are not well defended. I got golems, but they're never fast enough. So I can't really go out and chop heads like I want to every night. So it's like, I was enjoying chopping heads. I'm getting good at fighting. I have very infrequent creeper explosions fighting all night. So it's like, hooray, my fighting style is getting better and I'm more aware of my flanks. So it's like, yeah. But I can't do that right now, which is a real shame because I added another mod this week called Soul Shards. Long story short, you turn diamonds into shards of, like a gem, that will absorb the soul of or at least part of a soul of a creature.
Okay.
And you get enough of those soul parts into the gem, and you can create a monster spawner. So I spent, like, before I chopped down the wall, I got 3 soul shards, and I got 1 for spiders, 1 for skeletons, 1 for zombies. And, you need 64 of them to drop out before you get to tier 1. Like, it's not just like, I kill 1 zombie, now I can fight zombies forever in my place. And, so it took me 2 nights to kill 64 zombies. Woo! But I did it, and so I got a tier 1, and it took me a little while to get the proper stuff made up, because I needed a special ore that only came from smelting the soul sand down, into like a proper fuel source for iron ingots to create, it was a soulium, metal to make it up. But once I did it, I was like, I tested out, hooray, yay, I can actually, have a zombie spawner now. Woo! And then it occurred to me, this works with any creature you kill nearby, so I could have some very interesting fun. The higher you get the soul shard, up to tier 1 to tier 5, the more creatures will spawn and the less time in between. Right now it's 2 zombies every 20 seconds. If I kill over 1,000 zombies, which I can very well do with my abilities right now, over time, I will be able to spawn, I think it's 10 zombies every 2 seconds. And I think my weapon's powerful enough, I can do that. I can chop them. I can cleave them down fast enough.
Yeah.
But it occurs to me, it's this works with any creature. So it's I might have to go hit a town and kill villagers until I get a tier 1 villager shard so that I can spawn villagers on demand. So that's maybe I could let the villagers be undefended. No, that's an evil thought. Don't do that, Ryan. Don't do that. No. No. Don't be that evil. Not yet. Not yet. Not until you get deeper into your insanity. Roleplay a person who's at least mildly sane. Do that right. But then it was I have golems from the Thaumcraft mod, and one of them has the core you can put in a golem for what it does is butcher. And so long as there are more than 2 creatures of a species in its area of where it can see, it will kill the extras. So that way it'll never kill too many. You won't oh no, I've killed all my cows this way. But I could create a chicken spawner that will spawn chickens. Have a butcher kill them, and then just have someone wind up collecting, another golem, just collect up the stuff. And so I could have effectively an automated chicken farm, producing an infinite number of chicken corpses. I don't know why I'd need that, especially at tier 5. I don't need that many chickens every 2 seconds.
Well, actually, have you not ever built a chicken farm just with a dispenser with the eggs?
I can do that, and I have done some tests on it. That said, right now, I do not need anywhere near the amount of chickens I currently have. So this is all purely theoretical. I could make it work with cows. I could make it work with mushrooms.
Because I've been on servers before, and I've seen people do YouTube videos of them on servers where they build an awesome, super efficient chicken farm that does hundreds of chickens a minute, but it just lags the system because there's 1,000 chicken entities.
Well, that's the thing is I would have considered doing it very heavily. I will make a cow farmer. That way I will always have steak and leather. Ha. But as it currently stands, thanks to the mods I currently have for Thaumcraft, I can duplicate meat and I can turn meat into leather. So it's not a huge demand for me. I can do that given a little time and trial and error. Also, I learned from my croplands with my automated golem farming, I do not need a lot. I do not need a 9x9 plot of carrots. One of the biggest reasons I'm going to wind up redesigning my agricultural center with my vertical farming in Minecraft is because I don't need that much space for this much crops. It is redonkulous. And it's just if I had the automated chicken farmer, it's oh boy, chicken. More chicken than I'll ever eat. I don't need this much chicken. Like, I have an excuse to grow carrots in that I can reduce them down to their essential components, and I can get all the essential components off of a carrot. I don't think I can do that with chicken corpses. The only benefit to getting chicken corpses in that much amount is if I do it with the cows and the pigs, put it into the infernal furnace in the game, because they'll spit out occasional extra little nuggets. You combine 3 nuggets to create a 3-meat secret hidden meal in the game. It's like, oh boy! But it's like, I don't need to do mystery it that meat. Much. Yeah, it's effectively a 3-meat mystery combo thing. It's one of the secrets of Thaumcraft. It's not a recipe. It's nothing you have to learn. It's just something that happens. So it's like, I could do this, but it's like, I don't need to. I really have learned my lesson about excess. And right now I have got a lot of ore from my oreberry farms that I am not really using. So I may just have to have my golems idle until I need the ore. It's just, I've got so much of it. I do need some aluminum. I'm working on my prison area, where I guess is where I'm going to put my monster spawners eventually. But I'm looking at it, and it's like I'll eventually wind up having as many floors as I need made out of pure aluminum block. After that, I don't need it anymore. It's just like what am I going to do with all this metal that's coming in? It's not the high tier stuff. I can't make another Manulian blade out of it. It's like that's about it, man. I've topped off. So let it not be said I can't learn a lesson in gluttony eventually. Although I will admit I am sorely tempted to create that villager spawner just so I can put it over top of a smeltery from the Tinker's Construct, so I can get as many of them falling down and bleeding emerald.
Your mods have...
They bleed emeralds.
Emerald blood.
Well, it beats our alternate interpretation of it being their nose jewelry, right? That's where all the other stuff comes from. It's still kind of morbid then that they're trading blood clots around, but whatever. But I could really utilize that for proper trades, especially given the fact that the next thing I'm going to wind up making in where my gated community was is going to be a trading post. Because I with the mods, I can capture a villager in a jar and then pop them out of a jar wherever I want. So I can put them in a spot where it's like, I've got 3 villagers over here. One trades for beef, one trades for pork, one trades for chicken. I can do that. Now I'm planning up some designs for little sub trading post areas in my trading post area. So I'm digging that. Yeah, I can actually coordinate it without having to really force things in a very convoluted way.
I have. Did I ever tell you about I modded in villagers drop meat with a little green eyeball in the. It looks like a brain with a little green eyeball in it.
No, do tell.
Well, that's about all. I just added in it's very easy to add in the code, and I just redrew. I took the pork chop and sort of altered it a little bit, added an eye, and made it more like a brain. And then, so I was thinking I could probably make a villager farm and actually live off of villager meat.
Yeah, that has some... I thought I was a little cruel. But,
well, I haven't actually done it, but I did think about it.
I have actually gone through with my villager smelting system. In my defense, though, they were doing absolutely nothing for me. They had 300 of them living up above me, and they were noisy neighbors.
So you killed them.
Not all of them. Just I had a small blood tithe, effectively.
Nice.
Yes. But I'm thinking, now that I've got the soul shards thing in there, maybe I'll find a spot where I can get some snow outside of my desert biome, and maybe I'll find a way to get some of those blazes as a monster spawner, so I can actually put them together.
Do blazes attack villagers? Do you know?
I can find out eventually. I need to find another fortress. Yeah. I've been told in the game that if you shatter a monster spawner and you've got the right gem attuned to that creature, you gain 200 of that creature's soul.
Okay.
Which is good, because I think somewhere south of where I'm living, there's 3 spider spawners I found through collapsed zones.
Yeah, just in the desert, that's nice.
It is very easy to find. That looks suspiciously like a 5x5 room that has been plugged up with sand. Yeah. Let's dig down there. Sure enough, I get loot and a monster spawner. So yeah, I can have some fun with that, and maybe I don't know if I need that much for spiders, though. I mean, the eyes, well, maybe I could use that if I'm doing potions, but I still need my nether wart. I have not gone back to the nether in a while. I'm so busy in the main town.
I like it. Yeah, so busy in Minecraft.
Well, I'm really digging the wall I'm building. It looks good. It's got a repetitive style, but it doesn't blend into a background like most of my older works do.
Can I ask you this about your wall? Do you just build it straight on top of the sand, or do you actually dig like a foundation for the wall?
I dig one level down.
Okay.
That way, if I'm ever doing something underground there, I can at least tell where I am.
Yeah.
I don't go as far down as I go above, which you're supposed to do for proper fortifications.
Yeah.
But from what I know, based on zombie sounds and what I can see through my mods with my icy living and unliving auras in the distance, I know if I was to dig down, I would see a lot of cavern works, and I haven't finished off so much of the cavern I'm currently, effectively backfilling. It's like I'm just one guy.
I know you have to fill all, which is I have never met another Minecraft player who fills in all the caves.
Well, I've got so much cobblestone, I don't need to do that, and it's a nice way to determine where I've been. Try maneuvering around those caves without getting lost sometimes, especially down near the bottom where you can wind up losing everything.
Yeah, well, I've gotten lost so many times, but if I get lost, I always just dig straight up.
It's always the cheating result for me, so I don't go that way. But I figure it's a nice break. Like, oh no, my tools are worn down. I got to wait for them to naturally regenerate, because that's what I got for the Tinker's Construct, just regenerating weapons, so I don't have to keep replacing them. So I guess I'll just go and do a little mining down underground and backfill up a lot of space. It also helps for monster spawners to get rid of other potential monster spawning locations. You get better results.
Yeah, but I mean, you can do that by lighting them up with torches.
If I'm down there and it's useless to me, the last thing I want to do is wind up digging like an expansion underneath my... let's see. I think I'm going to be doing an expansion underneath my smeltery. I don't want to wind up dang, oh, that's right, there was a cave down there. Now I'm limping and I can't get back out the way I came. Dang it. So even if I wind up using the stone again and cobbling it back down again, at least I've made proper use of it somehow.
Okay, well, I'm not criticizing your play
It is
style.
eclectic, and I will not deny that.
I actually find it fascinating. Baffling, but
that's okay, because I do have Mistcraft, and I can generate worlds with no caves, which is probably where I should have gone to begin with, but whatever.
Yeah.
Which I can easily do now that I can take villagers with me wherever I go. I can form a village around me wherever I travel through the cosmos.
Cool.
Which is, kind of groovy.
Hey, did you see, speaking of cosmos, did you see some of the screenshots for the new version of Minecraft?
No, I'm keeping myself informationally aware, but visually unaware. It's looking good from what I've been told.
You heard about it. Okay.
Yes, with well, that's the thing is some of the stuff in the Tinker's Construct, if you right-click or left-click on your weapon, it gives you different effects. Like with the pickaxe I've got, I do the standard click and it mines out. If I do right-click, instead of doing a block or anything, it utilizes the block that's to my right, and it places down that block. So if I got torches down there, I can mine, torch without having to switch back and forth.
Yes.
It's very good style, and I think, it's something similar to what they're going to be doing with the left-hand, right-hand use in Minecraft.
Be using your left hand. And I was thinking, too, they're sort of making the end a little bit more...
Oh, yes, I've heard
usable.
about that. More than just one island, an infinite number of islands with some weird teleportation thing going through.
Yeah, something like that. And you can do the dragon fight more than once.
You can respawn. They apparently have that in the Pocket Edition already, so they're just porting that over.
Oh, yeah.
So hooray! More dragons to fight. That said, I got the Mo Creatures mob. I still haven't done anything with the wyverns. I've just got so much to do. I'm just one man, buddy. I'm just one man. As much as I would like to be able to do everything, I can only do one thing at a time. For now.
My dream goal, what I wished sort of from the beginning with the end, was I liked that, I liked the idea of having an infinite what did I do?
Like an asteroid field, effectively, is what it is.
But they're so far away that, what they do is there's different, there's infinite strongholds in the main world.
Yes.
And each stronghold You know how the end...
Okay, proper-wise, there's only 3 strongholds in the main world.
Yeah.
Proper relation from your starting spawn point.
Exactly, yeah. So, you know how the nether is, travel is decreased, or for every block you travel in the nether...
It's 9 blocks, right?
Yeah, 8 blocks in the real world. Well, I was thinking what they should do at the end is just do the other way, so that the end is really vast. You travel 8 blocks in the real world, and that's times 8, so 8
64
more. So because here's the other thing about how I envisioned, and this is not canon or anything, but I envisioned
I do like hearing how people headcanon some of this stuff out.
Yeah, I envisioned the real world as being sort of Earth-like-ish kind of, and maybe kind of like if you were to go infinite directions either way, it might ultimately become like a sphere like the Earth, but you never see that in gameplay because you're it's an
I'd be okay if it was just like a standard square and you loop from one side to the other like one of those Final Fantasy maps.
Could be something like that. But then I was picturing like the nether being like underneath that, so it's like the core of the Earth, so it naturally would have
it's
less,
the Underdark.
Yeah, and if that was also a sphere, that would be like going down under into the Earth, and then you'd have a shorter distance to travel before you emerge somewhere else on the planet.
That's a very good way of thinking about how it works.
Yeah, and then my thought with the end was that was
space.
That was in space. So there's these, you mentioned asteroids, or
that's what effectively it's supposed to look like. Although weirdly gravitational in one direction asteroids.
And then so that would be like the opposite. It would be like a much bigger sphere, like a outer sphere.
It is to the overworld as the overworld is to the nether. Yeah,
that was my headcanon for that. So then, if you had like lots and lots of little strongholds with the portals, it would lead to very different areas. But you could, in theory, block all the way. It would be a very long distance between islands, but you could eventually find another island or...
well, what are you going to... I have to backfill because I got to do something with all the stone I'm creating. Some people want to just create a bridge through space, man. I'm okay with that.
Yeah, it'd be like, 1,000 blocks of bridge.
I'm not going to naysay that. I think it could be very beautiful.
Yeah, that was what I wanted. And then each island could have its own dragon on it or something like that.
Or a different sort of thing, like randomly effectively created time of the spawning. Sometimes it's a dragon, other times it's some sort of like
wizard or something.
Octopus, like some sort of like what's his face, the spaghetti beast.
Yeah,
there you go. Sometimes
the spaghetti beast, of course.
Well, tentacle spaghetti beast, right?
Yeah.
Other times, it is like a dark wizard or something fun like that. You could have a lot of fun with that, just adventuring. That's your end game, going from place to place.
Yeah.
So I think that's a very good idea. I think you should post that up on the forums. And if they're not going to do that way, then see if you can't find like a small modding group to make an actual asteroid belt style that way.
Yeah.
So, okay, forget you're your end thing. I'm just doing like the.
But I think with the direction they've gone with the multiple islands, I think it wouldn't be too hard to mod in you'd have to just change 1 or 2 parameters. It'd be like, it's a different variable of space between islands, so just make that really big.
Yeah, the coding's already in there. It has to be for the nether and all that, so yeah.
Just like I like my large biomes.
Very nice, very nice.
I'm sorry, I interrupted something.
No, I quite like that. But yes, I got a lot of work ahead of me in that to do all sorts of stuff. And which way am I going to work with creating my farm now? Do I go with the monster spawner style, or do I actually try for like a mundane style farm? I think I'm going to go with the mundane style farm so I can breed at my leisure. Sure. So that way, if I need the stuff, I don't have to go, oh my goodness, what do you mean I got a double-sized chest full of beef? Who's going to need... It's all raw beef, too. It's horrible. So, yeah. Maybe I'll take the smarter option. I'll have learned my lesson.
Yeah.
Ideally. I had a notion that we've been toying around with for a number of weeks. We just have never gotten around to talking about. Mm-hmm. And it goes back to some stuff I've been looking at. And Vampire Hunter D is still being in my mind. I talked about that a number of weeks ago, and how the weird minions were also very unique and stylish on their own right. And that got me thinking about like villainous lieutenants. Because I was looking up some D&D modules for how am I going to progress the story I've got in my head? I've got going. I want to run for Josh here, and the concept of like named lieutenants seems to work very well for character progression and sense of satisfaction, without saying like, okay, now we've defeated the big bad, now what?
Mm-hmm.
So you could say, like, before you can even get to the big bad, you got to get the information out of the lieutenants. So you got to get this. So you got to free a guy from that. You got to go to other places. It's not just like wherever he is the one location for the big bad. There's evil everywhere out and about.
Yeah,
so,
yeah. Well, and lieutenants can be sort of almost their own big bads. Like they can have their own organizations. Like thinking of Saruman in The Lord of the Rings.
Uh-huh.
Like, I guess, I don't know if he's a lieutenant, but he is sort of a sub-boss, and yet he's a boss. Like, he has his own castle and his own, like, whole troops and everything.
Yeah, yeah. You could work the sort of thing like the big boss man has, like, a spy network. So his head of the spy network would be one of his lieutenants. Mm-hmm. You kill that lieutenant, and all of a sudden he's effectively working a little bit more blind and deaf. He doesn't have the information coming in anymore. So, as opposed to just getting him directly, which he might be too powerful for anyone to start with, you weaken him, you chip him down bit by bit by getting the lieutenants, by getting his connections.
Now here's a question I have. Is there a difference? I think there is a difference, but what would you say is the difference between a lieutenant and a champion?
Well, so that's a very interesting thing. I mean, like you mentioned Dark Sun earlier tonight, and in Dark Sun, the big bad Rajat guy had his champions. This is 14, 12? His numerous champions, and they were effectively villainous henchmen themselves. They were the lieutenants like, here, your goal is to kill all orcs in the world. Have at her, buddy. And so, yeah, that's like, hey, genocide. Boy, that makes me an actual champion, right? But he's called the champion, so, yeah.
Okay.
So maybe it's like a matter of perspective. The difference between a champion serving, a great king for the side of good, and like a lieutenant serving the villainous, Lord Vile, really is a matter of perspective.
Okay.
They're two sides of one coin.
Because I was thinking, like a champion is more of like, sort of, often physically powerful in their own right. Maybe a wizard, so magically powerful. Yeah. But a lieutenant is somebody who controls like other, like.
So while the PCs could be champions, they really don't have so many underlings on most campaigns that they can't qualify as the lieutenant in the standard structure, and that lieutenants have people underneath them.
I think so,
that's it. I both consider them to be powerful and agents on the move for a force. So while the good king's ruling his kingdom, and the evil Lord Vile, as I've just come up with here, is like he's doing whatever evil thing, like he's, his ultimate goal is to bring Demon Lord onto the material plane. So he's got to spend a lot of time getting all that ritual stuff going up there. So he's got to spend his time there. His lieutenants are out and about. They're the active forces on the move. They are his will made motile, in this case. And such is a standard case for the PCs. So how about this then? If you're working in a campaign like that where the PCs are agents of good fighting against these agents of evil, would you be more willing to give NPC allies for the PCs as effectively their underlings? Like, you've made an ally, so he'll help you with this. So in this area, he gets that. So you could have, like, the rogue start up their own information network.
I wouldn't, like, as far as D&D goes in particular.
For a campaign.
I wouldn't want NPCs to be anything that could be actually in on, like, our on-screen scenes, like our, fights and stuff. Because I have always felt
but they can help out with, like, information, or even, like, with the cabals, they help get you, like, you're out and about there, you can't do the spell research, so you tell us what you need to do, boss, and we'll get that done. They are the henchmen for you.
Yeah, I think I would definitely put in something like that. Yeah, I think that's a good thing to have in your game. I think that's almost inevitable, especially as characters get higher level, and you're thinking of creative sort of rewards or things that to motivate the characters. Like, what can I give them?
Magic items are nice, but they do one thing. A henchman can do a lot of things and really help you out. There are very few magic items out there that will help you as much as like a good chef / quartermaster while you're out and about, in the wilderness.
Now, well, and I'll ask you about this too.
Okay.
Like, what about the DM, like, sort of screwing with the henchman, or like, because sometimes they're like, oh, now your henchman has been caught, or now you have to rescue them, or something like that, or they betray you, or something like that. Like, I don't know. I always feel like that needs a bit of a light touch, or some
infrequently at best. Maybe one betrayal per campaign, unless the PC is really abusing them. Then make it happen per, like a person, they keep a tally. How many times do they wind up effectively abusing the friendship of this one character? And you can erase that tally if they do good, friendly things. Hey, I'll help you out on this thing.
I like the idea of it being sort of player driven. Yeah. And, the player's actions have consequences. So
we'll make it like a 5-point tally. You wind up abusing their relationship with this NPC 5 times without doing anything to help them out, and then they start feeding you bad information, or mucking up your spell components or whatever, and then you wind up coming into conflicts of oh no, nothing is working quite as it should. What's going on here?
All right. Now, what about
it wasn't bat guano you're rolling in your hands? It's halfling poop.
What about all that stuff on the bad guy's side, these little conflicts between sort of your really real big bad and your lieutenant? Would there be a little bit of friction there? And
there should be some friction, because evil is very rarely unified in complete vision.
Yeah.
You can usually get a lot of evil people to agree on one topic in one motion, but they're like gears. They don't always connect at all points all the time. They only connect at the one point once to make things move. Plus, evil tends to be ambitious. Sort of thing. So, if you're the big bad, you either have to have the unwavering loyalty of your lieutenants, or you have to beat them into submission as long as it takes, every time they get out of shape. Which sets itself up for a dagger in the back, so to speak.
Did you ever, have you ever played a campaign or, read a book, I guess, where the lieutenant, sometimes you get that turn, the lieutenant turns against his master in the end.
The heel face turn.
Yeah, imagine the PCs come on, the throne room or something, and the lieutenant has killed the leader, and then basically
the dreaded Lord Vile is found impaled upon his lieutenant's sword, still sitting upon his nefarious demon throne.
And then the lieutenant's like, okay, now I'm the evil lord, and then now you have to fight him, sort of deal.
I think that works well. I don't want to see it every time, but I think it does work well, because in that case, you are showing the level of evil by action, as opposed to just, he's trying to bring a demon lord into the material plane, and that's a really nasty act. So as opposed to, this is a theoretical evil, what he's doing is considered evil. This is a guy who's committed evil deeds that the PCs are seeing happen.
Okay.
That way you gain a much more real sense of the evil of this person.
I think I've seen it done, and one thing that I wondered a little bit about, but I suppose it's fine. But I wondered sometimes if the DM is just doing that for balance's sake, or being like, well, you can never take on, your party's too low, your level's too low to take on the actual big bad. So, the lieutenant stabs him in the back, and then the lieutenant's like, okay, now I'm going to fight. And I always found that a little bit awkward, because, shouldn't the lieutenant have, enough, I don't know, brains to be like, no, I need to keep my boss alive at least until we deal with this party of adventurers, and then I can, stab him in the back after that.
The smart henchman, or lieutenant in this case, would wind up doing something like, let the two forces fight it out, and then kill the victor while they're weak.
Yeah.
And both sides, effectively get wiped off the board. You're the only force on there. Woohoo!
But I guess, it's possible, maybe the lieutenant is in an impossible position because he knows that his boss is too powerful for him, and also the PCs are too powerful for him. He knows he can't take on the PCs. And yet the boss is, telling him, I'm ordering you to go fight those guys.
And I'm ordering you to look at this and raise the middle digit.
Yeah. And then, he's got, which way can he turn? I guess, so he kills his boss for, he decides to do that. Okay, I'll kill the boss.
But then a really good opportunity to kill him right now, where he cannot have magical defenses up. So that's why I put one dagger in each ear and shoved them in until I could hear them click together. The end.
But now he's got this problem with PCs. He doesn't like the PCs. They don't like him. And is he? I guess he has to run away or something. Or, I think that's what.
Remember what I did for you.
I'd have him run away.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have him like
leave a note, and carve it on the body of like Lord Vile here. You know, remember what I did for you. Signed, Little Evil.
Little Evil, or you haven't heard the last of me, or something like that. Little threat.
Something like that. You'd have to tailor it just right. But here's the thing: is speaking of tailoring, I think the villainous coup is a nice way of reworking the villain to suit the PCs. If you start off the game thinking, yes, this will be like a proto-lich sort of thing, where, as the PCs, get towards getting powerful enough to fight him, suddenly they'll realize he has suddenly become a lich, and then they'll wind up having to fight him at a much higher powerful, thing, not prepared for fighting the undead sort of situation. Whereas it's like, but it really not how the players seem to have angled the campaign. The way they seem to be progressing is not leading towards that. So maybe, I'll have the henchman, the lieutenant, muck up the lich, like a phylactery process. So he kills this boss. The boss does not come back from the dead. He just gets damned to the nine hells. And then we can have this lieutenant be a little bit better oriented towards the PCs for style and tone.
Okay, okay, makes sense.
Because that's the nice way of changing, things without it breaking the sense of the campaign and what's real. So I think that's a very good option that way.
Yeah, all right. Can we talk about any famous examples of lieutenants, in a film or gaming?
I want to avoid real life, because
real life
we know we're going to wind up with Nazis that way. I think the Dungeons and Dragons movies did a good example of that. Between the first and the second one, watch the second one if you've never seen it. It's actually better than the first.
Okay. Yeah.
In which case, do you remember the first one? They had that crazy mage.
I definitely watched it. I don't remember much about it.
Yeah, you were there at the theater with me when we saw it in the theater. But they had the really cool Lieutenant Damodar, and he was like, oh no, now I've got some sort of crazy thing inside my head, and all my skin's going kind of blue.
Yeah, I remember a blue guy.
Yeah, and he winds up becoming the big bad, as a lich, or things. Apparently, you can do that.
Okay.
In the second movie, in which case, he's progressed up into things, so he's sorted himself up in this ranks of evil. That's it. I really would have liked to have seen him be the guy to put the sword through the back of the mage, man. Oh, it could have been good in the first movie. At least a redeemable moment, because I gotta say, out of all the villains in the D&D movie, I did like Damodar a lot more than anything else. He was a villain I could respect. Okay, so I've been skirting it. The best example of the traitorous usurpation towards leader is Darth Vader. Let's just come out and admit it. If you want a good example of the lieutenant killing the boss and trying to take over, it's Vader and the Emperor.
Yeah.
Throw him down the chute. Just let the Force lightning, just rocket down everywhere. But you want a good example of how it plays out and why it makes sense from multiple levels. It's like, on the one hand, it's like, I know he was going to try and replace me with my son, so it's like, I gotta oust him before he drops me like the cold brick I am.
Yeah.
On the other hand, it's like, I could be leader. My son could take my old position. We could do it as father and son. Isn't that a good father-son bonding style? Come on.
Yeah.
Together we could rule the galaxy as father and son. Let's do that.
Yeah.
Also, it's like, if my son does have the will to say no, then he is going to kill poor Luke, and then I'm going to actually be gone the son I thought was lost all those many years ago. So, in which case, there's 3 very solid reasons to throw an elderly man down a large shaft.
Do you know if Darth Vader was definitely going to die? Remember when he's like, "Take my mask off, son, but you'll die."
Yeah. The dark lightning stuff that shocked him as he was throwing.
Figured he was pretty much already going to die.
It short-circuited the systems. He was on critical life support failure.
Yeah.
He knew it was going to happen.
I wonder, what if though? If to play the what if game?
What if Luke was a better engineer and was able to bypass the relay? You're going good. Welcome back to the War.
What if R2-D2 had showed up? And like, oh, I can fix that.
Or C-3PO, it's like, oh, C-3PO, I need your body. We're just going to pop the head out here, and Dad...
Vader's head off.
Yeah, there you go.
But
you're mostly droid anyways, Dad. And you know what? You built this one, so technically, it kind of meshes, right? So,
if Darth Vader had lived, would he just basically have retired? Been like, okay, well...
effectively retired, I would like to imagine.
Would the rebels put him on trial? They probably would, wouldn't they?
If they caught him, I could have definitely seen Luke helping smuggle him away to some Tatooine, like a swamp land for him to just meditate and reflect and change his core persona.
Dagobah, yeah.
Well, Tatooine, Dagobah, whichever planet he wants to be on. I mean, there's a lot of planets with a lot of space where there's nothing going on.
That's true, yeah.
But yes, I did mistake, Tatooine for Dagobah in the word stuff.
Yeah.
That's because I was trying to think of, there's a few other planets I remember reading of where it's basically, this is basically a water world. So it's like, oh yeah, dude, you can just retire and be a fisherman now, Dad. Have some fun.
Wouldn't it be cool if, Episode 7, they brought, Darth Vader back somehow?
James, yeah.
Do you think he probably wouldn't, would he?
I don't know. It's a pretty sweet role. I mean, James Earl Jones has got a lot of good roles under his belt. But all he needs to do is speak in his Darth Vader voice, and people bow down and do as he says. I mean, he's basically written himself a wonderful free ticket there. It's just kind of hard to say no to that, although I don't think they're going to be doing anything like that.
It's funny because the whole Star Wars, all 6, film episodes
it was
so
basically
far,
his story arc.
They've all been Anakin-centered in some way. Obviously he doesn't, he doesn't own... Well, Episode 1, he's definitely the bad guy, the big... Yeah.
Well, sorry, Episode 4.
Episode 4, yeah.
Episode 1, he's the little kid.
Anyways.
The original Episode 4.
The original Star.
Because of how crazy things go. Although I wouldn't mind a decent story potential with, how, at the end of the 6th movie, he's, at least the remastered one, it's back as him as the young Jedi he was before he went evil, right? I wouldn't mind to see that there's a dark force echo of Vader sitting around there. And so you wind up with Vader versus Anakin. So I think there's some very interesting existential style you could tell with that force ghost as an actual motif. I don't think they're going to do it. But boy, it could have made a good story.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're imagining it right now, aren't you? Vader versus Anakin.
Well, I think of that because, the first 6 are one arc, and then what do you do to? Is it a restart at the Episode 7? Is just we have a new?
We'll have to wait and see. Really,
I mean, we did see an evil Sith guy hanging around with his
crazy,
sword. I assume that's an evil guy. I guess it could be.
It's a red sword.
Dark
He's
hero.
evil.
Well, I mean, isn't there a possibility of there being dark hero? Because this is Episode 7. This is nothing.
They could, but they really do have it established, that red is evil.
Yeah, the Star Wars universe is that black and white or red and blue.
Red versus blue and green and
dark
one-time
versus
purple.
Light. Dark side versus light side.
So if he was going to wind up being an anti-hero sort of thing, maybe an alternative color somewhere along there. Pick another color. Purple's being used.
Purple's been taken. What other colors are there? Orange lightsaber?
Yeah, there you go. Orange to indicate he's not as evil as just the standard, red lightsaber evil.
Yeah. They should have a girl Jedi with a pink lightsaber.
Oh, that's a little sexist.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Girls shouldn't be limited to pink.
I think everyone should be able to have a pink lightsaber if they so desire it.
Okay. Yeah, fair enough.
That said, I wouldn't mind seeing a person utilizing multi-crystal harmonic display to switch out between, and thus the lightsaber changes colors in a hippie style, light display. But that's just me, and that's the kind of way I think. So yeah.
Yeah, but no, I think because remember the idea with Darth Vader or with Luke Skywalker, one of them, Darth Vader was supposed to bring balance to the Force.
He technically did. I mean, at the time that they started Episode 1, the Sith were a legend, and the Jedi were a highly powerful political force within galactic politics.
Yeah.
Why they were someone trying to find balance and they didn't shoot the kid in the head is beyond me. You clearly are on the positive side of things. You are the heavy weight on this scale. So you've got some explaining to do, old Jedi Order.
Well, I wonder though, like maybe things would have been way worse if Anakin hadn't. I don't know. It's hard. Yeah, it's hard to play that what if game, for that, because like, did Anakin maybe prevent something worse from happening as far as the Emperor, because he
making multiple Death Stars and blowing up planets.
Like, yeah, what worse could he have possibly done? I don't know. Maybe he just would have been the Emperor forever. I guess that's the other.
I think things would have played out without Anakin almost the same. Remember, he had Dooku as his patsy, and there's like, whoa, this guy's got force. I'm bringing him in.
Yeah.
So balance is not always to be expected or desired.
It's an interesting thought that maybe like some other young kid from a different planet. Because how many millions of planets are there in the galaxy?
Well, that's the thing. Is apparently like one half of the galaxy is basically a no-go zone for there's no areas to properly do your hyperspace routes through.
Right. Okay.
So it's very much the boondocks. But especially if you work with midichlorians, standard amount of who gets what over time, someone else is going to pop up like that. Because remember, just because you are 1 in a million doesn't mean there isn't 7,000 of you running around on Earth right now.
Yeah, just
on
Earth.
Yeah. So 1 in a million doesn't exactly make you that much of a unique flower in the galactic concept.
Can
you imagine that? 7,000 Anakins running around at once? Jeez, man, the average person might as well just throw his hands up and say, I don't matter at all.
Yeah, I wonder what that would be like.
It's an addendum, though. For this anti-hero, not quite Sith, but not good enough to be Jedi, could he be a Hutt?
The new hero or the new...
the new anti-hero, anti-villain?
The
heroic villain? Could it be a Hutt?
I'd watch that.
Yeah, man. I dig the concept of a mildly heroic Hutt. Or at least a more altruistically minded Hutt. Someone who knows about good PR, not crime lord stuff.
Well, I like the thought of like a Han Solo type, roguish, he shoots first, he's a bad guy, He's not
exactly the baddest of bad guys, but he was definitely not a good guy.
But then through the course of, I think that'd be great, through the course of, a movie or 3 movies or whatever, he sort of becomes, it's not like Vader who's like bad, oh, I flipped it good at the end. It's like sort of, he's kind of learning to love.
He did have a much better progression story arc. That's it, I love his reflexes. I think he's going to shoot me, blam. It's Darth Vader, blam, blam, blam. Like, the first shot, he doesn't even think, like, Darth Vader, what are you doing here? No, his first impulse is to grab his weapon and start firing. Yeah. I love that. It's like, this is my character concept, man.
Yeah. So just take Han Solo.
But, keep in mind here, the equivalent of Han Solo for our world is an illegal trucker who happens to dump his goods at the first sign of the feds.
Mm-hmm.
So keep in mind, that's the kind of person people think Han Solo is for the root and for, he was always a pretty good guy. No, he was an illegal goods hauler.
Yeah, but he is willing to kill if he has
and
to
a
get
murderer
out of trouble. Yeah.
Who hangs out with a really hairy dude next to him all the time.
Yeah.
Whatever. But yeah, I mean, you could, that's one of the things I think that makes the story for the Star Wars so great, is it turns a person who is this killer and illegal goods hauler into a hero. There's room enough for the story and the character to grow to become that person. And that's great.
Yeah, so I was thinking, since balance has been restored at the end of the 6th,
in that, things have basically been wiped out for everybody.
Maybe we could have a more gray area or a red sword wielding guy, just because there's now balance. Maybe now this sort of dark hero could exist.
I have been told through non-canonical sources anymore. They were once canon, but Disney owns it, not canon anymore. Balance meant the destruction of both the Sith and the Jedi, because neither was a viable lifestyle. Okay. The Jedi were striving to be emotionless like eunuchs, effectively. You know, like you can't have any emotion, you can't do this, you can't experience life despite being a part of it. Whereas the Sith were like, I hate all my negative emotions, power my abilities. Whereas what the Force wanted was people who were one with the spectrum of emotions in life.
Okay, and so it's like Luke's, a
lot more like Luke, who is angry but still used the Force and still... although, as Yoda said, you are not a Jedi, because he wasn't an emotional eunuch in this case. He had emotions.
Okay.
And so, the balance of the Force would have been a new Jedi Order, which probably shouldn't use the word Jedi, but whatever.
Sort of a Captain Kirk-style fusion of passion
maybe
and
closer
science.
To Riker. But yes, a Riker, Shatner, sort of style.
Yeah.
Definitely not a Spock, although, God, if I could have seen Spock wielding a lightsaber, just take my trip. I'll pay for 3 pieces of tickets. Just give me Spock.
They're both being made by the same guy now, so anything is possible.
There's always George Takei being like a Jedi.
That'd be cool.
There was an April Fool's joke he did. I think
that he was going to be in Star Wars. As a
Jedi sort of thing.
That could happen. Yeah.
Look that up. Takei Jedi, and it's got a nice little image he had done up and everything. It looked real. I won't lie. I was fooled by it, and I was stoked at the concept of him just making a cameo appearance as a Jedi Master.
I was going to say, too, just on the note of the Star Wars as a sort of mythological world, it reminds me a little bit of the Lord of the Rings and sort of that genre in that...
There was no effective Mordor, though.
Well, in that this is the story of a long time ago and sort of when magic used to exist, and then sort of we came out of the magical era because they were like, oh, well, magic, there's good versus evil, blah, blah, blah.
That's kind of an elfy thing. Let's leave with that, right?
Yeah. And then sort of like our modern age is like, no, we don't have to rely on magic anymore because we have, enlightenment and humanism and science and stuff like that. Like, we can just do it as people.
But that said, the Jedi stuff was a little bit less magic, more psionic. Why do they wield why do they wield the lightsaber when it's like anybody could wield the lightsaber? Why don't other people wield it? You have a very good chance of losing a limb because it cuts off everything. So you need to be somewhat precognizant to know how to avoid losing a limb, like an arm or a leg.
Yeah.
And only people that are, able to see the future through their telepathic, chronopathic disciplines are able to utilize.
People can use swords, and swords are sharp, and they can use swords without chopping themselves. Can't they?
But unless you're watching the first 10 minutes of Tusk, a sword isn't liable to slice you clean off just by touching your skin. A lightsaber will actually disintegrate anything around it.
Yeah, it just has to touch you. It doesn't even have to hit you hard.
That's the thing. It doesn't even need to be a very light touch. Which reminds me, why don't you see more Jedi stuff going on where they're using their telekinetic stuff to use the lightsaber at a distance, man? Come on,
yeah,
man.
That would make more sense. Or just have a swarm of lightsabers.
I've taped 6 lightsabers together. I'm just going to throw them and then just mentally activate them on and just have it
star.
Spin.
Light asterisk.
I call it the Bloody Rose. Because honestly, I'm gonna have the rose flower shape sort of thing, and then just blood everywhere.
They might, we'll see what happens in the new Star Wars, but they might have something cool like somebody controlling a swarm of lightsabers. I think that'd be pretty awesome.
I think you could do the same sort of thing with effectively blasters, though. It's just like, oh no, they've got cover. Well, I throw my gun out and move it over there. Now you have no cover.
Yeah. Pretty awesome.
That would be pretty good. That said, they never did use their robotics to the full end. There's a lot of stuff you can do with drones that effectively change the complete face of a battlefield.
Yeah.
Which we can have our Hutt sort of anti-Jedi sort of thing going for. I won't call him Sith.
Solo.
Yeah.
He's the kid of Han Solo and Jabba's daughter.
All Hutts are hermaphroditic.
Okay.
2, was it a 3-year period he was frozen in carbonite?
Yeah.
And Jabba was kind of a perv.
Okay.
He was perving after the Twilight girl sort of thing. And that is a lot of difference between the species.
He could have extracted some DNA and...
I'm thinking he could have deposited some DNA. After the end of episode 6, Han Solo winds up getting fully pregnant.
With a hut. Oh boy, with a hut baby.
Yeah, that's how that's my headcanon. So that's this Hut Solo guy. He's he's got himself like a little droid commando thing. So that's his lieutenant status. He commands droids.
Okay. Yeah.
That he builds himself. So that way he's got like some redeemable skills. Like I'm a technician. Haha.
All right.
So at this point, I think we've just about hit our 90-minute. I want to put a pin in this concept because I do have the D20 Star Wars. If you want to run a fun campaign, you want to go wacky with this stuff, I'm willing to take up the shield, and we can do this, Josh.
Maybe, I don't know.
Well, okay. We'll end this podcast. We'll give our final thoughts, and then I'll take the book out and we'll do some exploration, see what catches your eye for classes.
Have a look at it. Sure.
Maybe we'll do a one-off fun thing going on there, eh?
Yeah, speaking of the end of can I mention our social media?
Yeah, mention the thing as I think about my final thoughts on lieutenants and all that stuff.
Okay, we have an email address, thesimulationist@gmail.com, where you can send us all of your thoughts regarding Lieutenant and Minecraft and what else did we talk about? D&D and Lieutenants.
And Star Wars. Star Wars aplenty this time, really.
Yeah, I guess we kind of got off track, too. But
hey, anytime we're talking about Star Wars is not a bad time.
So thesimulationist@gmail.com. We're also on facebook.com/thesimulationist and youtube.com/thesimulationist. Type in your comments, whatever you want to talk about. It doesn't have to be even related to this conversation. Just anything nerdy, geeky, simulationist-y, simulated.
Fictional,
for that matter. And, if there's a place, if you find us on iTunes or Stitcher for that matter, we're on Stitcher, or your favorite podcatcher of choice, there are places to leave reviews. We would love to have your reviews, as many stars as you think we like.
+1.
As you think, yeah.
As many stars as we deserve, +1. Be generous.
That's right. And last of all, in Meat Space, if you happen to find yourself at the grocery store chatting to somebody, just mention that there's this awesome podcast about lightsabers and Star Wars and D&D and Minecraft. Tell us.
I do that from time to time. There's I meet a person who's like, excuse me, but are those symbols on your shirt the 4 Chaos Gods from the Warhammer universe? And next thing you know, I'm having like a 10-15 minute conversation with the guy about like how weird the Ultramarines are as a concept for are they supposed to be the best of humanity? Or are they supposed to be something beyond it? Like what do you think of the Ultramarines movie sort of thing? And next thing you know, we're chatting all sorts of stuff up.
Awesome.
So yeah. Make us an excuse to make a little like a short-term friend, man.
Yeah, that would help us out a lot, and you people will thank you for it. I assume they'll thank because they enjoy it.
I think we're quality enough to be thankful worthy.
Anyway, one other thing, check out Roll for Initiative in Victoria if you happen to be in Victoria. Look it up. It's usually on Eventbrite, and I'll also put links in the show notes from time to time. This week, I don't know if I have an actual link to the next event, but it will be in Victoria, so check out that, and you may get to meet yours truly. I don't know, at some point, Ryan might.
I'll do what I can. Things are crazy for my work schedule.
It's once a month. It's at the Victoria. Oh, I can't remember the name of the place.
But you Google it, search it up, man. You can find it, and they'll let you know, and they'll tell you exactly what it is, what the costs are. Should you bring chips? Should you bring pretzels? They'll be able to help you out. Fire off a letter when you get to their website.
And there's a small fee if you want to be a player. It's something like $10. But if you're a GM or you want to GM, you can go ahead and sign up there, and I think it's only like $2 or something. I'm not sure if they might not even charge.
Toss a toonie in, man.
Yeah.
You can't even get a full cup of coffee in many places for a toonie. Yeah, you can DM for that much.
And why not? Speaking of money, you can support this show. We don't, of course, ask you for anything if whatever you feel like.
It helps pay for new batteries whenever the stuff gets low.
Yeah, you can check us out on Patreon. Look up The Simulationist on Patreon. Type it in, The Simulationist. Should be able to find us. Type in both of our names, Josh Levin, Ryan Kirby. Those are the keywords you need to find. So help us out. That would be great.
Just remember the second K in Kirkby. Otherwise, you'll get Ryan Kirby, and I have no idea who he is.
Oh yeah, I could. No,
I assume he's a decent guy, but whatever. He's not me.
I've never tagged our episodes, with alternate spellings, but just now it occurred to me that I probably should just throw those in there just in case people misspell it.
If they can't remember the second K in Kirkby, I don't know if I really want to know
them.
Don't
really want them.
Can I really call them a potential fan? Yeah.
Possibly not. What else? Oh, and you can always check out. I'm doing I'm doing stand-up comedy at Ratfish. That's the Ramada in Victoria upstairs lounge on Mondays and Thursdays. Not every Thursday, but I try and get up on Thursday.
Even if Josh isn't there, still go watch a good comedy show, man. Come on. Right. Support your local comedians.
Absolutely. Every Monday you can shake my hand after the show, and I'd be happy to meet you. And
he does actually shake hands. It's not like Howie Mandel who has to give a fist bump, otherwise he's a germaphobe.
That's right. I'm probably the gross one in the equation, but I'm not. I know. I promise I shower. So
don't make it a challenge between us and our listeners, Josh.
Okay. So
don't make them rise to the occasion.
I think that's all the social media I think I've mentioned. You can follow me on Twitter at SpaceBoot1. Tweet at me if you have cool ideas, thoughts. I'm getting into tweeting more. I've been good. I've tweeted twice this week.
Ooh, that's doing not bad. It's about quality, not quantity. Yeah.
Well, yeah. It's hard to get quality into 140 characters. But
yeah, I remember seeing one thing where a guy put something very profound, but it took him 24 tweets, and he had to number them in order.
Yeah. Okay, so
yes, final thoughts. I think from a hack and slash perspective, lieutenants are a great thing because they offer great loot, potentially, to their level and all that. So one more giant force to kill. From a role-playing perspective, I find them great because there's a chance of doing the face heel turn or heel face turn. I forget which order it goes in.
Well, heel's a bad guy, so if they start as a bad guy...
So heel to face turn.
Heel to face turn.
Okay, so heel face turn. And that way it's like you have a good ally, someone who knows the heart of evil because they were once beating next to it. Mm-hmm. And it does allow for changing up options and styles. So if you got the four henchmen of the big bad guy, you go up against the one guy, you're expecting a lot of traps because he's like a ninja thief master. You go to the other guy and he's controlling the orc horde, so it's a bit more of a hack and slash thing. Whichever path you want to take to defeat the big bad, that now is effectively a four-way meta dungeon to get in on there. So that's a pretty groovy option that way. Let the players decide which way they want to go through this style. How about you, Josh? What's your concept on the villainous henchmen and lieutenants?
I think you said basically what I would have said too. Just that it's a good, it's a good hurdle for that sort of D&D style hero's journey where things are getting bigger and bigger. Then you have a big lieutenant before you have a big bad. Or sometimes the big lieutenant is the biggest fight, and the big bad is sort of a weak, guy that you can finish off after the lieutenant, something like that. But yeah, you have a second in command, and also it can sort of stretch out an adventure a little bit if you have further and further down the ranks, sort of beating boss, then you beat his boss, then you beat that guy's boss.
Beat up an orc lord, beat up an orc warlord, and you work your way up the whole line before you beat up the orc god.
And I guess in some ways it can get a little bit formulaic, so you just want to be careful about where you put them, and you can put a little twist on it because...
here's the thing. I've talked before with superheroes about the one thing called the dynamic centerpiece. It's been talked about on the Absorbiscom blog, wherein a hero seems bigger and more heroic if they're surrounded by a family, a system. Yeah. Superman has Supergirl, Batman has Batgirl. You've got your junior stuff. Superman has Superboy, Batman has Robin, and such and so forth. You can do the same effectively with the main villain. Make them seem bigger and more imposing by surrounding them with the henchmen. Different styles, different techniques. Each of which maintains a similar sort of style and theme for the villain, I suppose, but is definitely their own unique person. And that way, by having all these people, out there, the heart of this dark web seems so much more than just one lone nut with a lot of power to force the orcs into rampaging where they want.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, so if you wanted to design an adventure or even an entire campaign, you could start with that centerpiece villain, and just to flesh out the campaign, you could say, well, he has this person, and just invent relationships for him. And before you know it, you've got this sprawling world that the players might not even get to all of it.
And that's okay, because that leaves up for, follow-up campaigns with other heroes.
I guess, that might be interesting way, as a DM, even if you haven't beforehand, thought of all these details, in the middle of a campaign, you could just throw out something random, and he has an uncle, or there's this brother, and you just throw that out, and the players are like, oh, is that something?
It's Uncle Istvan, you do not want to meet him.
And that could stand as just, the world is just bigger and we'll never get to it, but, it gives us this feeling, that this illusion of a bigger space.
And it's not just one crazy evil guy. It's like, dude, maybe his entire family was kind of nuts.
Yeah. And then, if the players, if they, grab onto that hook, then that could lead you to another adventure or something.
Yeah. So you try and figure out what's going on, like what's his ultimate motive, like what's the big bad got planned. So you talk to crazy Uncle Istvan, and once you're able to get the axe out of his hands and put him down somewhere where he can't hurt himself or others, then maybe you get some answers out of him. So this is like all of a sudden it becomes an interrogation scene. That's a little different from a hack and slash thing. And how many dungeons have you already been through? Well, geez, I guess if you got 3 Iron Maidens, it'd be poor use not to at least use one, right? So there you go.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, food for thought for food, however you want to look at it.
Done with the podcast. That's it. Thanks for listening, everybody.
You take care out there.
Yeah.
We'll see you again in 7 days.
I've been Joshua Levin.
I've been Ryan Kirkby.
I've been Ryan.